In less than a week, can I write a new play from scratch and convince one of the most prestigious theatres in Venice to let me perform it?
And hypothetical, totally not hypothetical question here, but
if I write the play by myself, longhand, perform it to no one while the theatre is closed, and then burn the only copy of the script in existence, destroying any evidence that it ever actually happened,
is that theatre?
Or is it something else entirely? The general definition of theatre is along the lines of a collaborative form of performing art that uses live performers to present an experience of a real or imagined event before a live audience in a specific place.
Which is, cool, but a bit fucking dull.
Midway through the last millennium, Venice was the centre of the universe, regularly challenging accepted ideas and reinventing and reimagining all aspects of life and culture.
Now, I was a little late to get into a sword fight in the Venetian Piazza over the nature of theatre, but around 600 years later, I am going to attempt to make my own small contribution to the development of ideas in this great city.
I need to gather appropriate materials and get into the right headspace to write the play. Then I need to convince a theatre to sort of let me have a go.
Armed with an email account, some basic conversational Italian, and a lot of enthusiasm, I am planning to rock up in person and just see what they say. Yes to plan A, B, or C. Certo.
Then, finally, I need to destroy the thing, respectfully, and create something beautiful from the ashes, so it may rise again, if ever anyone wishes.
Perhaps in the 2600s, if Venice is not a swimming pool by then.
And just to ensure I preserve the secrecy of the play, I am alone on this trip, and every single shot you were about to see was shot by me, including of me. So let's hope no one robs, pun intended, the camera, or you're going to get an accidental action sequence. Part 1 was pretty straightforward. I headed across the city to Rialto, near where the beautiful stationery shop Scriba is located. They had exactly what I needed: a Murano Glass pen, pot of Italian black ink, and a bunch of parchment paper. With just 5 days to pull this off, I'd identified a series of potential theatres to hit up, from glorious opera houses to independent student and even temporary venues. I emailed the ones I could and planned my follow-up visit. Around the Renaissance period of the 1500s, Venice was a key location in the development of a new form of theatre, which came to be known as Commedia dell'arte. And unlike the physical theatres I'd been researching, which could tell me to fuck off on a whim,
this form of theatre took place in the town squares, the piazzas of Italy, using stock characters represented by masks. Importantly, even though the characters, situations, and even jokes, or lazzi, were somewhat predictable, the performance itself was always entirely improvised.
I reached out to Nicoletta, a local blogger, who offered to introduce me to Carlo Setti, one of the last remaining artists in Venice, creating Commedia dell'arte masks in the traditional method with leather. Spending time with Carlo really underlined for me just how easy it is to lose important contributions to art forms.
When I finish the list of the masks I have to do, I paint everything.
He has no apprentice. If something happens to him, do we wait 100 years for the next person who's ready to commit their life to this craft?
Però se fossimo in due guadagnerei ancora meno perché non guadagno niente.
Said that I am the only one here, but if we were two, I would earn even less.
Yes.
And yet, in the same moment, I'm here crafting something that will be deliberately destroyed and never seen by anybody, and not to lean too far into the mental Olympics of the whole thing, but it's kind of interesting.
It's a frequent source of anxiety for a lot of artists, the idea that nobody might actually see the thing that they create. So I suppose, in some way, by deliberately twisting that and then making something nobody will ever see.
I guess it could be freeing? I mean, with writing, I always feel like I'm reaching, into myself to try and find a character, a story, a truth, something worth expressing that can be structured and pieced together in a beautiful way to deliver a gut punch, to show you something about the world.
I do wonder if, in a way, this ultimate freedom from judgment will allow me to be more truthful and more honest than ever before and possibly create my best work. But is the fact that it's never judged and no one knows it truly exists stopping it from being a piece of work to begin with? That's the question, I guess. And I don't know.
Getting a theatre on board wasn't going to be easy. This is the oldest theatre in Venice, Teatro Goldoni, totally shut for the last 6 months for major renovations.
Probably l'inglese. When it's finished, the renovation, it will look the same, just fresh.
No chance. Teatro La Fenice, perhaps the most famous, booked up AF with performances and non-stop public tours.
Buongiorno. So you think the answer is no? It's okay, don't worry, thank you so much.
So, no chance. I headed into those and others, armed with my polite Italian and bizarre idea. I guess if I get flat nose from all of them, I could just whisper the play behind the locked door of the Teatro La Fenice disabled toilet, discreetly escaping midway through a tour, but that's giving desperation, not innovation. We'll bank it just in case. Parchment paper in hand, I hit up some Venetian hotspots to work on the script for the play. And with the odd Aperol spritz in the other, I was making some good progress. But speaking of innovation, I needed some inspiration from our second character, the man that damn theatre's named after, Carlo Goldoni, my guy. In the 1700s, Carlo was on the precipice of his own major renovation work.
To Commedia dell'arte itself.
What if this form of theatre that used to be really popular came back, but instead of being improvised in a town square, it was scripted by me and performed in a theatre, so that I had full creative control, and rather than leaving the whole thing down to the skill of the actors, I just sort of knew it was good already.
Yeah. Fuck 'em.
Carlo's hypothesis proved correct, and with plays such as The Servant of Two Masters, he completely reinvented and renewed the idea of Commedia for a new century. Theatre in the theatre, baby. So, with all that in mind, I decided to complete my script here, in his house, Casa Goldoni, which is now a museum and library. I was hoping some of that magic might rub off, and make the play as good as it could possibly be. Not that anyone will ever know.
Very busy. Very, very busy.
After several days of laying the groundwork and writing, it was time for one final round of canvassing with my complete script to see if I could get some precious time on a Venetian stage. But I had one last task, just before. When I'm in the city of Venice and intent on exploring craftsmanship that has spanned centuries, I can't ignore Murano Glass. The distinct, colourful pieces are crafted by hand by master glassmakers, mixing the glass with minerals and using a special glass-blowing technique that is, well, extremely old. Tried and tested, shall we say. I booked myself into a class at a prestigious workshop on the island. In the span of a single morning, I would learn to create my own special sculpture, guided by my own personal glassmaker, Benjamin.
Prepare yourself. We're going to bring the pipe over and we're going to place it down on the right hand side of the furnace right here.
Things got pretty heated.
That's it, out you come, out you come. Beautiful. Point down, squeeze as tight as you can. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. You can do it, squeeze. And now you're going to blow again. Okay.
But thankfully he was patient. Isn't that beautiful? We'll put it to good use very soon.
Quick update, less than 24 hours before this entire project is over and I get on my way back to Wrexham.
The headline is, I have no theatre. Just lots of seagulls.
That's Roger.
Great guy. Across the entire week I've been hitting brick walls. As we know, Teatro Goldoni is shut. Teatro La Fenice responded, suggesting that I head over bright and early one morning, which I did, to discover that they would actually allow me to record if I was willing to pay a €500 fee. No. Next I headed up to the Biennale area, where the art pavilions and theatres are located. No. I then raced around the Dorsodoro district, attempted to catch the brief window of time the university theatre was set to be open, but I forgot I was in Italy, where opening hours can sometimes be inexplicably flexible. Apparently, there's a famous Banksy by here. At least one British person got away with cheekily making something here. Mid-afternoon, and things were not looking good.
Ciao, posso parlare con Carlotta?
Answer. Several others simply weren't responding or even accessible to the public, and I was getting a little anxious. Dejected, I sat in a deserted nearby piazza, staring at the half-set-up Venice open stage. If I couldn't land a physical theatre, maybe I could find a solution there. Desperate, I began calling their production team using the numbers listed on their website. No one's answering the phone, the person at the office isn't answering, the communications manager isn't answering, and nobody's here. I was facing my final hours in Venice with zero response from a single theatre. I'd been totally naive to think that I could come to this city with no contacts and somehow pull off the equivalent of a theatrical heist in less than a week. I took a final roll of the dice, calling back every theatre I'd been emailing and knocking the door of all week. Goldoni, La Fenice, Ciaffoscari, a Lavogaria.
Spero puoi aiutarmi. Parli l'inglese?
Finally, someone answered.
I sent an email. I'm wondering if anybody from the theatre managed to read it. Robert Corcoran.
Teatro alla Vogaria.
So I will go to the address, which is Teatro Dorsodoro 1617. Okay, at 6:30 p.m. Great, grazie mille. See you soon. Ciao. Okay, this is some progress.
Teatro alla Vogaria agreed for me to meet them at 6:30 p.m. Now, to be honest, the man I spoke with did not seem to fully understand me, but it seemed that I would at least have a chance to plead my case in person. I took a deep breath, sipped my espresso, and headed over on time.
Can you believe that right here in this square is a theatre?
Now, it's not my first rodeo. Sometimes when you think you're at the finish line, things can still fall apart pretty spectacularly. But here, in a quiet corner of Venice at 6:30 on an early summer night, it was perfect. The theatre was beautiful, covered in posters from staging various Goldoni and Commedia plays. The technician, Giorgio, offered me wine and gave me a tour. I sat and watched a rehearsal of The Tempest featuring puppets. And, importantly, when I met the theatre manager and explained my batshit request to perform in his empty theatre at the end of the night, well, I like to think that in that moment, as Giorgio kindly translated for me, and we held eye contact, he saw me not as some crazy Welsh guy, but as a fellow artist, deeply respectful of his culture and heritage, seeking to uncover the truth, to rummage the depths of my own ideas, to attempt to truly understand what theatre is, what it could be. He thought about it for a few seconds, then said, "See."
The following is an excerpt from my life, a performance no one else will ever see. It is an attempt to question and explore ideas about creation, life, theatre, and death. When I press the button to stop recording and enter the stage, the performance will begin. But if I might be so bold as to ask one more question, it would simply be, does the performance ever really start? And does it ever really end? Through my eyes, perhaps I am my own audience. Or if there is a God watching, grazie, enjoy.